is how do we actually change and improve our attitude, our mindset, and create that map. I think we need to expand just a little bit more. What do you think on that growth mindset versus fixed mindset? And what is the truth about that? Because if we're not going to be able to see the difference between them, we're basically stuck, right? And if we're not willing to destroy our old habits, you can't change them. That's the hardest part about habits. You got to destroy it and move to creating and replacing them with new habits, new rituals is what I like to call them, because rituals drive your results. And those rituals come from a I can attitude versus I can't attitude, which leads us right back into that discussion on growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So I know you've done some research on that. Could you maybe just give a few just key points on that so that we can really knock this third talking point of that back? It is a little bit on the map discussion, but how do we really define it and that destination and the steps that you would see in it to create that map through the change of our fixed to growth mindset? So I'll leave it to you.
Thanks, but I think the first step is to look in the mirror. So I read a book, again, in my early developmental stages, probably 25, 26 years old, called The Man in the Mirror. And it was a book about men and what they were good at and the areas that they should seriously take a good reflective analysis about where they were at that point in time in order to move forward, in order to create a new future. And the fundamental of the book said, hey, there's some fundamentals to a human being. One is you have a mind. What are you doing with that mind? Take a look in the mirror and say, are you really developing your mind? Or is it just kind of evolving, developing on its own? Are you actually taking intentional action to work on your mind? Then it said, look at your body. Humans are body too, physical beings. Is your body just doing its thing? Or are you taking intentional action to do something about your body? Are you feeding it right? Are you exercising it right? Are you doing stuff on a weekly basis to deal with that? It said that people are spiritual creatures, that spirit or soul is part of every human being. Tons of documented proof on that as well. What are you doing there? Are you just letting that sit? Are you exploring that area? Are you learning in that area? Are you growing in that area? What are you doing intentionally in that area? And the last piece is, yep, go ahead.
Sorry, just on that one point of human, I find this quite humorous almost, that human being, the actual definition of human, when you go back to the original Greek and Latin of it, is hue or humus, dirt. Man means ish, which is spirit. It's a spirit in a dirt suit. That's what a human being is. And that's just because, and that's actual. If you go and do the research, you will find this out. And I find it quite humorous that we, in our culture, our society, around this very point, try to take out the fact that take the spirit out. Well, if you take the spirit out, then you're just a big pile of dirt, right? So we all say that we're human beings, but we don't even really know what that meant. And it really had an impact on me. I went, oh my goodness. And that's really impacted me in my spiritual walk. So I interrupted there, but it just was on that point that you were making.
Yeah, you didn't interrupt there. You just added to the conversation, which I appreciate. And that is the truth. So we got mind, body, and spirit right there. And the fourth thing that that the book talked about, which was really powerful for me, was take a look at relationships in your life. That would be your significant other, your children, your friends, your family, and your community, the people in your community as well. And it asked the poignant question: look in the mirror. Are you taking intentional action to build those relationships, or are you just kind of going with the flow? and or not thinking about them. And as a young man, in all of those areas, I was just living. I was actually concentrating a lot of my time on habits, doing things out of habit that I'd gotten into. As an example, I was a big reader as a child, and so I read fiction, tons and tons of fiction. And even when I was reading that book, the Man in the Mirror, probably 95% of my time reading was spent reading fiction. And if you take a look at the opportunity to expand your mind, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to become excellent, the opportunity to become a leading professional in a certain area or a leading knowledge expert in a certain area, that could be part of anybody's future. They just have to be dedicated and take action intentionally to do that. And so I made a commitment at that time to read a book, nonfiction, on professional subjects, one book a month, 12 books a year. So I was going to invest probably, let's say, $200-300 in my brain each and every year. And that made a tremendous impact on my life just by picking up a book. And I can honestly say, as they say to my listeners, I don't think I've ever read one of those books cover to cover. Maybe a couple, 2 or 3. I've got hundreds of books by now, but I've never read them cover to cover. But just by picking them up, flipping it open to a chapter that interests me and start reading on that chapter, you learn, your mind expands. And that's where the growth mindset comes in. So on almost any subject that you'd want to become an expert on, i.e. golf, or in my case, leadership development, and how people communicate with each other, we can grow, right? We can grow, we can learn, we can change, we can develop. And
I agree.
if you add to that your mission statement, which is, and your and my mission statements both say, let's become very good at this, or let's really pursue these things with diligence. Then what we find that over time that we get to be leading experts in certain areas. And that builds confidence, that builds competence and competence. And that gives us the enthusiasm to get up in the morning and share that with other people.
Yeah, well said.
Or do stuff.
Well said, Bob. So you're also addressing in that discussion and some other things which we will talk about in the next coming weeks and months about our program that we're putting forward to actually help people answer these key questions, right? About who am I? What are my gifts? And what am I doing here? What is that purpose? My why for giving and growing. So these are really key elements. Understanding your why and your purpose and having that map really will make us more effective in our execution and living life, which is living intentionally focused on executing on that purpose. So, and when we have that map, it truly makes a difference here. What is that purpose? My why for giving and growing. So these are really key elements. Understanding your why and your purpose and having that map really will make us more effective in our execution and living life, which is living intentionally focused on executing on that purpose. So, and when we have that map, it truly makes a difference, you know, and I think that segues us right into last question. What is the reality or the truth about our life circumstance? Do we feel or believe it's happening for us or against us?
Well, to me, the truth about life circumstances is life's hard. Life is difficult. Life has been very difficult at times for me, very, very painful at times for me. You know, many authors would say life is about suffering. There's lots of suffering in life. And I certainly have experienced a portion of that. I'm not sure my share, but it's certainly a portion of that. So I think that's a truth about life is every human being that I've met, yourself included, my friend, has trying, challenging, difficult circumstances, and sometimes tragic, many times tragic circumstances. So it just seems to be the truth about life is that the human condition is you're going to experience it. So expect it. Expect that if you fall in love, there's going to be a breakup. If you start a business, you might lose money. If you climb a mountain, you might fall down and break your back. It's just that's just the way of life.
Yeah.
But expecting it and worrying about it's two different things. So I certainly don't fear tragedy. I don't fear challenge. I don't worry about these sorts of things. In fact, when they come, there's an opportunity to embrace the challenge, work with the challenge, and learn and grow through that challenge. So I'm talking about the suffering. I'm talking kind of the negative side of life, Heath, because even though I'm very much an optimist, I'm very much a realist too. So I really do believe that you have to look at that side of life and say, I'm prepared for those. I'm not going to look forward to them necessarily, but when they happen, I'm going to find the challenge in them. I'm going to grow and learn from those experiences. So I'd say that for sure.
You've hit on a key point, and it truly is that pain is the partner of growth. The risk is what brings the reward. If there wasn't that risk of pain, we wouldn't feel elated when we overcome. And I think at the end of the day, everything is our choice. Everything. We get to decide. And I think that comes down to what you just were saying, right? Are we going to choose to create the rituals that are going to drive the results that we want? Are we going to choose to have the habits that will give us the fruit that we really want in our life? And that map will really drive it. So in summary of our fear, I think today we need to come to an acceptance that fear is real and that we need to use the faith killers. The fear killers of faith and focus, that embracing and then being enthusiastic and energetic, that we can accept it and we can be accountable and ultimately respond by creating the habits that are going to drive the results that we want. So I really want to thank you, Bob, for the wisdom that you shared today and walking with me through this whole discussion on how to respond to fear. How do we not allow it to control us, but to take control back by embracing it and just watching it disappear as we achieve what it is that we want to set out to achieve.